Penguin Random House Audio presents Kissing the Wind by A. Hotchner. Read for you by Robert Petkoff. To my dearest daughters, Tracy and Holly, my beloved son, Timothy, and for the love of my life, my wife, Virginia. Love seeketh not itself to please, nor for itself hath any care, but for another gives its ease, and builds a heaven in hell's despair. William Blake. Introduction. A. Hotchner and I met 56 years ago when Bennett Cerf, the founder of Random House, asked me to meet Mr. Hotchner and read his manuscript. That manuscript became Papa Hemingway. It was a bestseller in the United States and was published throughout the world. He went on to write 19 more books. What follows is his last book, which he said he wrote to show couples how they could help each other, no matter what illness they had. He had Charles Bonnet syndrome, which is explained in this book, and he died at the age of 102 in his beloved house in Westport with his wife Virginia and his loved ones at his side. He was a bon vivant and a good friend, and also a wicked tennis player. He will be sorely missed. Nan A. Talese. Part 1. Chapter 1. It came upon me imperceptibly, teasing me with its implications, giving me masked notice of its pervasive intentions. I had no way of perceiving that the life that I lived, nicely fashioned to my liking, was at risk. I was a successful attorney in specialized practice. I occasionally wrote legal thrillers in my spare time, and I was blessed with a rewarding group of friends. All of it now in serious jeopardy because I had been unexpectedly invaded by a baffling, mystifying force that defied expulsion. That invasion was sudden, and I was not forewarned. It was so subtle, I am hard put to identify when I first became aware of its presence. I'd say it was about a year ago, on a sparkling, sunny morning. I was on my way in an Uber to Charlie Epps's office in the Kerrigan building, where he was a member of the prestigious law firm of Whitaker & Sheen, which filled 3 floors of the building. Charlie's family and mine had occupied the same apartment complex all our lives, and our mothers were fast friends who'd shared our early days. Charlie and I went to the same schools: Robin's Nest Preschool, Oak Street Elementary, Chester Arthur High School, Haverford College, and Columbia Law. But when we graduated 16 years ago and were offered positions with Whitaker & Sheen, Charlie chose the security of the big law firm and prosperous clients. I chose to wallow in student debt, representing authors, artists, and other creatives who often paid me in galleys, tickets, and screeners. But it worked out. Whitaker & Sheen was a white-shoe corporate transactional law firm, but on the rare occasion their clients were sued, they preferred not to farm out the work to another firm. I had plenty of trials under my belt, so Charlie would bring me in as of counsel. It was a flexible affiliation that allowed my friend to toss me the occasional high-paying client to subsidize my solo, First Amendment-focused practice. I was headed on that bright spring morning to confer with Charlie on an unusual case that was right up my alley. Penelope T., a brilliant Singaporean novelist who specialized in magical realism, had been involved in a high-profile romance and bitter breakup that had spilled into the tabloids. T. had maintained total silence about her private life, but later published a book about an acclaimed poet who cheats on his lover with an anthropomorphized garden hedge. Many saw parallels between the main character and her ex-husband, Danny Norgard, an acclaimed poet who had been photographed getting cozy with the avant-garde horticulturalist Victoria Cellucci at the Los Angeles hotspot Quispaca prior to the breakup. Complicating matters, the homewrecker character Valeria Cespulio reads a poem in Chapter 4 that is identical to Norgard's acclaimed poem Cacio e Pepe, save for a few scatological puns. Norgard filed an action for libel and copyright infringement, citing damages in excess of $30 million. T's previous work had been well received, critically, if not commercially. This book, Topiary, had had trouble attracting a major publisher. She wound up at Dodecahedron, a small publisher vanity project owned by Rowena Flackpfizer, CEO of Osgood Industries. Osgood was a purveyor of useful doodads, knickknacks, widgets, and what-have-yous, and Charlie's biggest client. The firm was happy to offer my reduced of-counsel rate to defend T. There was an open elevator in the busy lobby that I commandeered, and I pushed the button for Charlie's high floor. As we started upward, I became aware of an unusual sight. In the right rear corner of the elevator was a large, glossy rubber plant. Peculiar, I thought, a big rubber plant taking up the usually crowded space of an elevator. I mentioned it to Charlie when we settled down to work. "You sure? I don't remember any rubber plants in the elevator, but I'll check it out," he said. When we left his office for lunch, Charlie preceded me into the elevator. "Well, no rubber plant in this one, is there?" He was right. The rubber plant was not there. "Rubber plants are for the lobbies of cheap motels," he said. "Well," I said, "I guess they took it out." I let it go at that. I didn't realize it at the time, but that was the first sign of it, the scourge that would invade my life. That evening, to my monthly regret, was an obligation to have a formal dinner and several hands of bridge at the 12-room apartment of Lance R.A. Dixon, whom I had met when Charlie had brought me in to defend his company in a rather heated trademark dispute. Dixon was a supercharged tycoon who had decided that I was a possible mate for his daughter Violet, who was recovering from a tempestuous divorce. She was a handsome, engaging woman in her 30s, but despite Dixon's forceful machinations, I was disinclined to cooperate. I had recently retreated from a rather lengthy relationship and was not eager to involve myself in tuxedo-clad bridge, which I played miserably, and country clubs. Of course, Dixon was a whiz at bridge, as well as golf, tennis, and playing the piano. He insisted I join his country club foursome, despite my obvious shortcomings, saying, "I'll get the pro to get you up to par after the wedding." I had tried to evade all talk of marriage, but Dixon's mind was made up. His eagerness on my behalf induced one awful result. He had maneuvered me into a doubles game at his club in the Hamptons, paired me up with one of the pros to compensate for the superior skill of him and his partner. I was playing at the net when he rose up to his full height to hit an overhead and smashed the ball right at me, smack into my right eye. I had a black eye for a week or so, but many visits to my ophthalmologist had a terrible final pronouncement. The force of Dixon's smash had irrevocably shattered my optic nerve, and I would be forever blind in that eye. Dixon's comment when I told him was, "Too bad, but listen, you have to take care of yourself. It's much worse playing football. I played every football game at Dartmouth, left tackle, and had not so much as a scratch. You learned a good tennis lesson. You see me go up for an overhead, turn your head away, and cover it with your racket. I'll be your partner next time. I'm really better at doubles than the pro, and I'll give you pointers during the game." Somehow, even after all this, Dixon had still bullied me into committing myself to a dinner and bridge night with his wife and Violet at their apartment on the first Tuesday of every month. I had consented to please Violet, even though I am worse at bridge than at tennis. To make the evening even more objectionable, Violet let me know that her father always dined in black tie and asked me to please do likewise. So, in a grim mood, I presented my tuxedoed self for the impending bridge ordeal, but it was the dinner that got to me first. My salad was thickly covered with what looked like little clusters of pine needles. I glanced over at Violet and saw her eating her salad, which had none of these little sprigs of needles. "Did you have the pine needles?" I whispered. "What pine needles?" "Like mine." She looked at my salad. "What pine needles?" That's just arugula and slices of lobster.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?